Thank you, Joes. Namaskara. Great to be here with you this afternoon to talk about connecting tomorrow. As Joe said, I lead Swissnex in India, what I like to call one of the diplomatic anomalies of Switzerland. For those of you who were here last year, you may remember that we had just announced the launch of the Indo-Swiss Innovation Platform with a 3-day innovation dialogue on antimicrobial resistance. So nudge to you, Ewout, and we're trying to work together on the Netherlands, Switzerland, India axis, but it turns out that, as usual, the innovators move faster than the bureaucrats, so aligning funding instruments and opportunities is not always easy. We launched the innovation platform not just as Swissnex, but as Switzerland in India, with an objective to elevate the partnership to a more strategic and systemic dimension. We announced 3 focus areas: health, sustainability, and digital transformation. In health, of course, we've started with antimicrobial resistance. In sustainability, we're looking at biodiversity, we're looking at transition to renewable energy and decarbonization. And in digital transformation, we've done some amazing work on disability and digital self-determination, and of course, big focus on AI and analytics. This year, after launching the innovation platform, we reached an even bigger milestone earlier in March, when Switzerland, together with the EFTA countries of Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland, became the first European bloc of countries to sign a comprehensive trade and economic partnership agreement with India. Now, this is a significant milestone that marked the conclusion of 16 years of negotiation, and it comes with big and bold ambitions. Number one, there's a commitment of investing $100 billion into India over the next 15 years. Number two, there's a commitment of creating 1 million jobs in India over the next 15 years between these 4 countries. Now that is substantial. I believe it's in the range of 1 order of magnitude more than what was invested in the last decade, so we're really looking to scale up significantly, and that means wind in the sails. Now for Switzerland, it's not yet go time because just 2 weeks ago, the text of the agreement was passed to Parliament and it still needs to be ratified. The reason why it took so long from the signing to now is because this very complex text had to be translated in all 4 Swiss national languages before it can reach Parliament, and so it won't be passed before next year. Earlier this year, on the wings of this enthusiasm, we had a delegation with a focus on space, and I mentioned this, unfortunately our traffic commissioner is no longer here, but I mentioned this because among the delegates we have the startup Keto Dynamics, which is a data analytics startup that leverages satellite imagery, metadata from telcos as well as cell phone towers, and perhaps on the occasion of a cricket game can do accurate analytics that can predict exactly how many people will be using which routes on the road, just using the metadata, nothing identifiable, but a level of granularity that is unprecedented. So we're of course hoping to add a 6th project after the Dutch one, having a Swiss collaboration to tackle something that affects us all, unfortunately, on a nearly daily basis. Later this year, we have the 12th edition of the Academia Industry Training. This is one of our long-standing programs where we bring 10 Swiss startups to India during the Bengaluru Tech Summit. So for those of you who want to meet them, they will be at the Swiss session. This year, after several years, we return our partnership with our Indian government friends. So we will have 10 Indian startups participate as well. And speaking of Indian startups, for those of you who know Sinler, which is of course a Bangalore-based startup based in Whitefield, they are opening their office in Switzerland on the EPFL Innovation Campus tomorrow. As many of the deep tech startups in India know, setting up in Switzerland is a great gateway to Europe because the focus of the Swiss startup ecosystem is on deep tech, and in fact, none of the 10 AIT participants have a focus on AI, but they will come with a focus on clean tech, meg tech, agri-tech, and so on. Earlier this year, the Swissnex network, of which we are just one of several members, launched an initiative on planetary thinking and more precisely on planetary diplomacy. Swissnex is a diplomatic anomaly that was created 24 years ago, the first country to open a scientific consulate back then in Boston. And at the time we wanted to invent a new form of diplomacy for the age of globalization, the techno-utopia optimism that permeated the world in the late 90s. The world has changed since then. We're asking ourselves, what is it that we would invent today if we were to invent a new form of diplomacy? And our answer is we need to invent a form of planetary diplomacy, a form of diplomacy that takes into account the interests and the needs of the other than human. And we've heard some links to that as well earlier with the One Health approach from Ewout. One of the most interesting projects that we're supporting in this realm is interspecies money, the idea of giving other than humans a digital identity. So imagine an elephant in the Western Ghats that gets a unique digital identity, something that India knows very well and can do very well. That digital identity is tied to a digital wallet, and the elephant provides critical ecosystem services. It maintains the health of the forests, and it should be compensated for those services, and it can get compensation in its digital wallet. At the same time, sometimes elephants come into conflict with humans, and they need better infrastructure, better fences, or they may need to have land purchased for corridors. And interspecies money is a 100-year futuristic idea that has a pilot in South India here with elephants to look at, can we take such a visionary, crazy idea forward? Later this year, in December, during the Unboxing Bengaluru, so we overlap with what Prashant Prakash was presenting at the end of his talk, we will have the biggest project that we're working on this year, and it's a trialogue on planetary health. This is a 3-day gathering that will bring together researchers from the University of Zurich, from Makerere University in Uganda, and from the Indian Institute of Science, in what we like to call an unconference. So not a setting like this, but a much more hands-on, action-oriented setting. And fortunately, we've been able to align the funding instrument between India and Switzerland so that there will be a call on One Health that should also go live in December, if not in January. We would have loved to do it with the Dutch as well, but that unfortunately was not a possibility. But this is groundbreaking work, again, looking at how do we bring the planetary perspective into the everyday work that we do. One of the side projects that we're developing tied to interspecies money is with some students from IIITB and Switzerland. We're looking if we can create a planetary health currency where all the participants will get to input the decisions that they make during the 3 days, the meals that they eat, the way in which they commute, and so on and so forth, and that will convert it into a planetary currency that will also show what the impact of small everyday decision has on the planetary scale. With that, if any of this resonates and sounds interesting to you, I invite you to scan the QR code. It is a sign-up QR code to our newsletter, Anomaly. It goes out once a month. The next edition goes out tomorrow. This month's focus is on mobility. We will have very interesting interviews with Bhavish Agarwal, the founder of Ola, who just IPO'd, and Amitabh Kant, who speaks on the future of mobility from India's perspective. Thank you.